Autism Connect. I am Shreya from Autism Connect team. So today we have an amazing therapist on board, Meenakshi Walwalkar. So people have already joined us. I'll give a small description about her. She is a consulting psychologist and Pranic psychotherapist. She has over 12 years of experience working with Esteemed Educational Institutes, corporates and healthcare organizations, and expertise in counseling and psychotherapy for behavioral and adjustment problems, depressions, and anxiety. So today she'll be talking about unveiling the world of autism, which is quite very interesting and important topic for our audience. So yes, Meenakshi ma'am, welcome to Autism Connect.
Thank you so much, Shreya.
So I have given a small description. Would you like to please give a description about you?
Okay. So you have already said it all. So yes, I'm a clinical psychologist and working with both educational corporates as well as hospitals. I have day in and day out, I have been interacting with children who are on spectrum, children with Asperger's syndrome, and various of their issues, providing therapeutical tools for them, for their parents, and helping them overcome or deal with their situations, their condition, and make it big for themselves in the life, whether it is academically, whether it is socially, and yes, as far as they themselves, personally, individually.
Okay. So, ma'am, here we have few sets of questions to be answered to our audience. So, the first question is, how does the brain function in autism?
Okay. So, Shreya, to begin with, I would like to say that if we understand autism or what this condition is, it can definitely help us to help these people who are on spectrum or help these children with autism better. So autism is basically a neurobiological disorder which comes with certain conditions. So there are some components. So to begin with, I would like to mention 4 important components which are normally there in autism spectrum. One is about language development. So their social skills, their language development, their emotional development, and at times, even the physical coordination. So these 4 components get affected by this particular condition. Now there can be different permutation combinations. Say for example, in a particular child, you may see a great linguistic skills, but yes, emotional development is somewhere affected. In some other cases, we can see social skills are hampered, though there is a good development of language. Yeah. So they have some challenges in initiating random social conversations or continuing with some kind of social communication. In some cases, there is physical coordination, which can be poor, whereas we see good emotional and social development. So, we see different kind of conditions and their combinations. So it is not one specific thing, rather it's a spectrum of challenges, spectrum of disorders. Now, as you asked me how the brain functions, now here I would like to give a metaphor and a kind of example of a shopping mall. So when we go to a shopping mall, we can easily access one section from the other.
Yeah.
So, for example, we enter one section and then from there on, we know how to enter the other section and so on and so forth. Yeah. Now, what if we get limited just to one section of the mall and we do not know how to go to the other section? That's a blockage. Now, if we compare human brain to this shopping mall, there are different pockets in human brain and different kinds of information is stored in these different pockets. And when we are doing any work, say for example, we are problem solving or we are planning something or we are doing some academic task or any as simple as attending an important phone call, okay, or interacting with other person, we need to access information in different pockets of the brain. But for us, for we can say an average individual, it can be easy traveling from one part of the brain, accessing information to going to the other part of the brain. In case of autism, what happens is there are some blockages in this travel, in this switching from one part of the brain to the other part of the brain, and it represents quite a challenging situation for them. So unless and until we equip these individuals with some kind of skills or some kind of techniques which they can use to easily access that information, there is a challenge in their everyday functioning. There is a challenge in their day-to-day effective functioning. So that's how the autistic brain functions.
Okay. So this is amazing. So here we have the next question. What is the difference between autism spectrum and Asperger syndrome?
Okay. So normally there is a confusion because these are two separate terms. Okay, high functioning autistic, so HFA as we call it, and Asperger syndrome. But if we see functionally, there is no difference between the two. Rather, there are some typical characteristics which are shared by both. There are some, we can say, challenges which are shared by both. So to mention the first one, there is trouble handling some disorganized information. So if some chaotic situation where probably we who do not have that condition, we can easily resolve that, we can easily accept or adapt to some changes, these children or these individuals, they find a challenge in that. Say for example, any child with autism, so he or she is used to a particular setup. Even they come in the therapy room, they are used to a particular setup. Okay, the way we arrange some kind of tools for them, or the way we conduct the session. Suddenly, if there is a change, or if the therapist changes, they find it quite confusing as to adapt to it. How do I go about it? So that is a very first thing about both Asperger's as well as high functioning autism. Then the second thing is about social interaction.
Yeah.
So they come with a set pattern, okay, and they what we call as diplomacy. Okay, they lack in it. Like for example, I just came across a child 2 days ago, and he's a 8-year-old boy. His mother got into the therapy room, and she was very upset. She was annoyed with him. Apparently, she took him to visit one of his aunts who has just delivered a baby, and she asked him that, "Oh, how did you like the baby?" And he said, "No, the baby is so ugly. The skin is so intense." Okay, and he started describing. Now, if we say whether he was wrong, he was not. Okay, a newborn baby.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't find the baby adorable or good looking, but he was literally describing the baby, and then his mother pulled him out of the room, and she was telling him, "You're not supposed to say that. Your aunt will feel bad. You're supposed to praise your baby, because you have to appreciate, you to adore." So for them, some of these social situations which demand some kind of diplomacy or some kind of adjusting the content, they find it very difficult. There is a difficulty in processing language if it is not visually presented. Most of these children, an experience in all these years, even in the therapy settings, is that when certain instructions are given as a bunch of instructions only with the auditory modality, they find it very difficult to process it. So if we segregate or categorize the instructions and present visual material with it, they find it easy to understand, interpret, and then take the instruction. Then there is impulsive speech and very little ability to understand words and the effects of their words on others. So for example, if somebody asks them, "How old are you?" or "What is your age?" the child may ask back, "Okay, so what is your age?" So whatever is asked to them, they will literally repeat that,
Okay.
not knowing how to adjust their responses. Then there is, if it is a complex set of instructions, as I say, complex language, they find it difficult to decipher or decode that and then make meaning out of it. So more simple is the language, better is the understanding. So that is another feature. And finally, there is an inability to generalize from one setting to the other. So for us, if we get some experience in a particular setting or in a particular situation, scenario, we can easily take that learning to the other similar setting and we can generalize. In case of Asperger's or high functioning autism, though intellectually they are quite intact, this generalizing can be a challenge with them.
So I hope our audience are getting lots of information about this. So our next question is how to nurture the social skills of kids with AS-HFS.
Okay, so as far as social skills are concerned, as I said, giving them very simple instructions or talking to them in smaller statements, which are very, very clear, and there is nothing like if you do this, and then if you do this, and then if this is done, then this is. They cannot at times establish a connect between cause and effect.
Yeah.
So as I said, if we can add some visual material to it, or rather if we can use some kind of flashcards. So at home, when parents are training these kids, if they can use some lot of visual material, okay, and then explaining them with the help of that, that really helps them to understand things better. That is one thing. Secondly, taking a note of each of their positive action or each of their positive verbal response and making it very clear to them. So for example, if we can tell a child that, okay, as you entered my cabin, you wished me good evening, and that is a very good thing. Next time when you enter any other place, you go to this doctor's cabin, that particular place, you will wish the person. So establishing connect from our end is very, very needed for them, because if it is a complex reaction, just like excellent, you've done the right thing, the child does not understand what is it. I just entered and I said good evening.
Yeah.
Or probably if we can start with it, so as the person enters, as the child or a teenager with who's on spectrum enters your room and you say, okay, good evening, or I would like to greet you. And then if you say good morning, good evening, whatever, he or she understands that yes, this is the way in which I am supposed to be behaving, or I'm supposed to be greeting the person.
Exactly.
So these are some of the small things when it comes to initiating socialization or initiating social adaptation for them. Along with that, when it comes to complex conversations, many a times, okay, they are intellectually intact and they are able to understand what you are asking. But your question and their response is limited to your question. Further to that, they will not be able to continue that conversation because they are not able to in their own. So in that case, if you can train them, or if we can train them in some particular social scenarios through techniques of role play, that really, really does help them to understand the nitty-gritties of the social world, or to understand how to cope up with the world. So these are some of the ways of socializing or helping them with their socialization process when it comes to Asperger's as well as high functioning autistic.
So we see many kids are like awkward in talking with other individuals. So our next question is how to help children with AS-HFS overcome the awkwardness in the conversations they're having with individuals.
Okay, so when it comes to their awkwardness, or when it comes to that awkwardness is mainly because they do not know what next.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ask the person his or her name, that person will answer. You ask them about their school, whatever they are studying, learning, they will understand that much, they will answer. So in order to help them cope up with that awkwardness, or in order to help them to flow with the conversation, we can, again, the same thing, we can train them with simpler conversation. Say, for example, you can choose a particular scenario. Say, the child has to enter a school classroom, and there are many children around him, maybe same age. Now, these children, they will come, they'll ask him so many things, they will on their own chit chat so many things. Now, if we can just train this child to listen very carefully, okay, and in that complex communication which is going on, pick up what you like. So, for example, one friend of yours is discussing what he has or she has carried in the tiffin. The other person is talking about what the parents bought for him or her. The other child is talking something else. Listen carefully, and then you decide what would you like to choose or what would you like to pick up to talk on. So, for example, the child may say, okay, that friend of mine was discussing about his tiffin. Okay, so can I say what I had carried in my tiffin or what did I have for breakfast?
Yeah.
Fine. So that, that particular topic. Then next time, maybe you can represent some other thing. So you give them a choice of topic, and then you ask them, fine, you choose today, what do you want to speak about? Okay. The child will choose and pick up one topic, and then you say, well, you have chosen the topic. Say, for example, well, you have chosen that competition. Say your school annual program, which you participated in or which you attended. Fine. So can we talk about it right now? And then you start the conversation, and then you slowly stir the child through that conversation, wherein he or she knows as to how to put it and what to speak. So this kind of training goes on, and it's a long-term process. We cannot really expect that, well, it is done. I mean, I have been doing it for a certain period of time, so it's done. Not true. Over a period of time, through this phase, one phase after the other, they pick up certain things. Repeated instruction is something which is very much needed for them, so that they can become proficient or so that they can adapt to these kind of complex social conversation.
So here we have the last question. Why is it important to relate the children's learning styles to the thinking styles?
Okay, so when it comes to people on Asperger's or people who are high functioning adults, there are different ways of thinking. Now, the way a person is able to think, if we can connect the teaching learning style to that, it becomes very, very easy for that person to understand, interpret, connect, and learn. Say, for example, as some time ago, I just shared with you that some of them, or rather many of them, are visual thinkers.
Yeah.
If some material is presented visually, they are able to understand better and they are able to learn better. Some of them are mathematical thinkers. So if you give them certain things in the form of numbers, so that's the reason what happens is when it comes to the therapy setups for children with or people with spectrum or people with Asperger's, a kind of combined approach or an integrated approach is what is needed. Say, for example, if a child on the spectrum is not able to learn language per se, okay, the teacher can also take help of a mathematics teacher to convey the same thing. Okay, so some of them can be musical thinkers. So what happens with autism is one area of the brain could be very, very swift.
Mhm.
So one area of their functioning, they can be really gifted, whereas the other area is hampered. So we first need to understand what kind of a thinker that person is, and then accordingly, we need to connect the learning or the teaching style for that particular person. So as I was just telling you, some of them are musical learners. So musical thinkers, anything which is presented in terms of internally connected or rhythmic set of instructions, they are able to understand it better and they are able to connect with that faster. So yes, Shreya, there are different of these
Yeah.
ways in which we can teach children with Asperger. Yes, now even though in some cases the language is affected, some of them could be even verbal thinkers. They are logical thinkers, and actually, if we put certain things to them logically, they are able to understand better. Even that uh, kind of, those kind of cases
Yeah.
are also. So yes, that's the very basic reason why we need to connect the learning and teaching style with the person's thinking style.
Okay. So is there anything else you would like to share with us, ma'am?
Yeah. So why it is needed that, for us to understand how the person is thinking is because um, once we can gauge into their world, once we can understand their world by understanding their thinking style, it really becomes easy for us to make them understand even complex concepts. Like, for example, a major challenge comes to them when they grow up.
Yeah.
So with all the, as they step into puberty and then later into teenage, with lot of these hormonal changes, physiological changes happening, and along with that, the accompanying emotional changes, at times it becomes very, very difficult for the adults who are their caretakers, their parents, teachers, etc. Certain concepts like as simple as good touch and bad touch, or certain concepts like a physical space which we need to maintain while socially interacting with people. So rather than just kind of putting labels, or rather than just giving them a direct thing that, oh, I mean, you're just going and shaking hand, or you're trying to hug the person, okay, because it was his or her birthday, but do you think you have done right? For the person, if it's somebody's birthday and I'm greeting that person, I'm wishing that person with a handshake or with a hug, there is nothing wrong in it. It is our concept to check whether the person is comfortable. So if we can understand how these people function, how their brain processes the information, it becomes really very easy for us to help them understand the ways of the world and to really help them to become a fully functioning individual, a fully functioning and effectively functioning adult.
Okay. So thank you so much, ma'am, for this amazing live session. It was an interesting session. I hope everyone enjoyed this and got a brief knowledge about the topic, which you have explained very nicely.
Thank you so much, Shreya, and thank you, Autism Connect, for this opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.